This OnePlus Turbo 6 could well be the Nord 6 here in Europe, and I'm really excited about it. Why? Because it's fast, has a massive battery, and feels pretty premium. But the question is this the Nord 6? And if so, is there a catch that we don't know? There are a few design changes to check right off the bat, starting with the cameras. The Turbo 6 has this square off design for the camera housing, while the Nord 5 was more rectangular with obviously the circles at the top and bottom. And that's not the only thing that's different on the design point of view. First of all, although this does feel premium in the hand, it doesn't feel as sturdy or as well built as a Nord 5. You do get a matte finish across the back, but then there's another change, and that is the fact that the Turbo 6, which should be the Nord 6, doesn't get OnePlus's Plus key either, which is an omission that is gone. Maybe it'll land in Europe, but chances are it won't. Overall, though, the feel of the phone is plastic rails and then a fiberglass back. Continuing with the design, if you flip to the front, you then get a display. It's a 6.78 inch 165Hz AMOLED with 1800 nits of peak brightness, and then a screen to body ratio of over 89%. And you do get slim uniform borders all over, and the quality of the display is very evident. Punchy colors with a lot of detail, and colors do pop off the display as well. The Turbo 6 also gets a significant upgrade in terms of its durability, because you now get IP68/IP69K dust and water resistance. So on two fronts, there's a big improvement. One, you can use this phone completely wet on the display and it'll interact and work exactly the same. There's no difference. But the other thing is, if you by chance so happen to drop this in boiling hot water, don't know why that ever happened, for example, kettle water, it will not impact the phone in any way. And you can just pick this up and use it as normal, like we've shown here, and there is no impact at all. Then moving back to the rear, let's talk about what lives underneath the frame of the back of this phone, and that's this chipset. It's a Snapdragon 8S Gen 4. So that is actually a huge, near 40% upgrade over last year's 8S Gen 3 on the Nord 5, especially when you refer to Antutu scores. On Geekbench scores, you're of course looking at a sub-flagship level chipset in terms of its overall performance and its scoring. And then when you run this through 3D Mark's Lifestyle Extreme tests, you then get some very interesting results, especially around things like stability. There is significant throttling here at over 50%, which is, of course, especially under really heavy load, you're gonna see that throttling. On the gaming front, however, you do see some significant uplifts. You can now run games like Call of Duty Mobile off the bat 120 frames per second, and it runs incredibly well. But what's even better is the heat management once you are playing those games at 120 FPS, like Call of Duty, with your speakers on loud. You're not gonna have any issues with things with like temperature, for example. Yes, those tests did show an increase in temperature, but when you're gaming and using this on the day-to-day, you're not going to see any of the throttling, first of all, because you get super smooth frame rates, no drop-offs, no crashes, no weird things happening. For example, all that works really well, but also when you have it in your hand in your gaming, you're not going to notice any of those issues either. On the OS front, it is running Android 16 and Color OS 16 on here, but obviously with the European release, you will get Oxygen OS 16, which looks pretty much the same, and it runs incredibly well, and I mean flagship level-esque, and there's no qualms about it. It is very fast and smooth, super intuitive, and has some very cool features. For example, if you open and close your apps, for example, or folders, the transitions in between those are super smooth. If you then go across to things like expanding a single icon to include a number of widgets like we have done here on Google's search icon, you can then add in like a voice search or a general search, which is all pretty sick and all part of the OS. Now, we can't review the OS in its totality because obviously this is running a Chinese ROM, but it still has all of the really great AI features like AI Eraser, being able to remove an object from an image, works very well with no real After Effects warping thing at all. And then also things like AI Reflection Eraser also works reasonably well. There's a lot to reduce the glare on, say, a photo image or on a poster image that we've shown here. It does do an overall very good job. But Color OS/Oxygen OS, if this is on the Nord 6, runs incredibly well. Then there's the star of the show when it comes to this phone, and it's a trend we're seeing at a lot of phone manufacturers out of China, is these massively insane batteries. Here, it's 9,000 milliamp hours, and of course, it is silicon carbon with 80 watts of wire charging. There is no wireless charging here, which honestly, at those speeds and that battery size, absolutely fine. And you can actually use this as a power bank if you wanted to charge another phone. Just make sure the percentage on this is higher than the other phone, and you can achieve up to 27 watts of charging, which is absolutely wild. It'll actually power bank charge faster than an S25 will charge just off its own, which is totally insane. But on the actual testing front, when we run this through 3D Mark's Lifestyle Extreme test, we obviously did see significant throttling, but in terms of battery usage was 12%. Now that may seem a lot, but that is an extremely tasking task that runs those tests on this phone. Overall though, if you were to use this out and about yourself on the daily like we did, took this out in the morning for 100% battery, used it for things like photos and videos, just normal stuff as you're walking around a pretty busy city, things like playing games for a significant amount of time, browsing the web, and even doom scrolling on YouTube Shorts, for example, we only saw a 20% drop, and that was essentially an afternoon's worth of time, and there was only a 20% drop. So what you're looking at here for most people is a probably 3-day battery, roughly, when it's fully charged to zero. So taking this out and about in the day, using this, you're gonna get insane battery life. Let's talk cameras. The Note 5 gave you a 50 megapixel main, 8 megapixel ultra wide. The Turbo 6 on the rear looks like it adopts a similar, but no, it's actually a 50 megapixel main and a 2 megapixel monochrome sensor. And this is a significant downgrade versus last year's Nord 5, which is a huge shame. And one of the downsides of packing all that performance and power into the phone on the battery and the CPU, you're going to have compromises elsewhere and just come on the cameras, unfortunately, which is the new direction OnePlus has adopted. But we still want to cover the camera. The main 50 megapixel sensor produces some pretty good results, and it's a Sony LYT600, and you do get OIS on board as well, and produces some really nice results with bright environments, captures a lot of detail, and images look sharp and colors well balanced. The images on a whole do look more natural and not overly saturated, so it's a pretty decent main lens. Video is 4K 60, again pretty good, and colors look really nice and well balanced as well. And then front-facing camera, again, is pretty nice with a good amount of detail in images, and skin tones here are representative of what I would say look really good. Overall though, I would say the Turbo 6 cameras are pretty decent, to be fair, even though there are compromises versus the Nord 5 from last year. If this is the Nord 6 in Europe for us, should you be excited? Well, hell yeah. Reason being is because you're going to get a phone that's incredibly fast, has excellent OS, a pretty good 50 megapixel main sensor. I think if they added a good quality ultra wide or telephoto, it would just make it even better. I think that would just crush the mid-range market. But more so than anything, it's the charging and that insane battery life that is the real kicker to this exact phone. And personally, I think if this is the Nord 6, that will be a pretty big package to beat at 2026, especially with all the optimization that will happen. But we want you to let us know, if this is the Nord 6, is this something you would buy in this exact same phone without any changes? Let us know in the comment section below, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Until the next one, as always, we out.